The moon draped the sky in a silver veil, while Detective Ricardo felt a chill that wasn't from the night's cold. A scream echoed through the dark forest. Sofia's scream, the modern witch he loved so much and whom he knew was in danger. But danger from what? A black figure flitted swiftly between the trees, leaving only the smell of sulfur and an icy fear in Ricardo's soul. Were Sofia's supernatural enemies more powerful than they imagined? And would their love be strong enough to protect them this time? The forest whispered secrets on that dark night. Ricardo, the detective with a piercing gaze and a heart divided between skepticism and the magical reality he now knew, ran without stopping. Sofia's scream echoed in his ears, a painful melody that tore at his chest. He remembered the soft touch of her hands, the warmth of her embrace, the unusual strength that emanated from her, a force capable of conjuring lightning and calming storms. But now, Sofia, his modern witch, his Sofia, was in danger. The smell of sulfur burned his nostrils, a clear sign of something malignant, something far beyond the comprehension of his mind, trained to solve ordinary crimes. This was a crime that transcended the world of the living, a crime committed in the shadows, in the invisible realm that intertwined with ours. Ricardo stumbled on a root, the physical pain a silent scream compared to the agony in his heart. He couldn't lose Sofia. The moon, a silent witness, bathed the forest in ghostly silver. The trees seemed to spy on him, their twisted branches like skeletal arms. Each shadow seemed to conceal a danger, an invisible enemy ready to emerge and swallow him whole. Ricardo remembered the words of Ilara, the old and wise witch who had taught Sofia, an enigmatic figure who lived in a parallel dimension. Ilara had warned him about the specters of darkness, powerful creatures that fed on fear and despair, capable of traversing dimensions and causing incomparable havoc. Were these specters responsible for Sofia's scream? He heard a sound, like the tearing of silk. Ricardo stopped, his heart beating like a drum in his chest. He managed to glimpse a figure amidst the trees, a tall and thin silhouette, shrouded in dense shadows that seemed to suck the moonlight. The figure seemed made of dark mist, its contours undefined, its form menacing. Was it a specter? Fear, an enemy as real as any supernatural creature, invaded Ricardo. But his love for Sofia, a burning flame in his heart, propelled him forward. He couldn't retreat. He couldn't leave the woman he loved in the clutches of darkness. He had to be brave. He had to be strong. For Sofia. As he cautiously approached, a sharp cry cut through the night's silence. It was Sofia. This time, it was a cry of pain, of agony. Ricardo felt a pang of terror. The specter moved, a macabre dance among the trees, each step accompanied by a chilling whisper that seemed to freeze the blood in his veins. It was as if the forest itself was siding with it. Suddenly, a bluish light cut through the darkness. It was Mariana, Sofia's apprentice, a young witch still in training, but with a lion's heart. She was armed with a willow wood wand, her magical energy pulsing like a heart about to burst. Ricardo, be careful. They're the specters of darkness. They're trying to steal Sofia's life force, Mariana yelled, her voice trembling but firm. They need her power to open a portal to another dimension. Ricardo felt a shock. A portal? Another dimension? It was all even more complex than he had imagined. The specters weren't just after Sofia. They were planning something bigger, something that threatened not only her life, but the balance of the entire world. Mariana pointed her wand, launching a beam of light that struck one of the specters, causing it to recoil, emit a high-pitched scream, and dissipate into a cloud of black smoke. But there were more specters, at least 3 others, lurking in the shadows, watching them, waiting for the right moment to attack. And in the center of that supernatural struggle, Sofia lay on the ground, weak, almost unconscious, her life force being slowly sucked away by them. Ricardo approached, his eyes full of determination, his love for Sofia like an invisible armor protecting him from the darkness. He knew this wasn't just a fight for Sofia's life, but a fight for the survival of 2 worlds, united by a bond of love stronger than any dark magic. He knew that tonight, more than ever, the line between 2 worlds was thin, and the fate of both depended on them. The clock, silently, was running out of time. Ricardo reached Sofia, his fingers trembling as he touched her weak pulse. Her skin was cold as marble, her lips pale. Fear gripped him, a cold hand on his stomach, but the image of Sofia unconscious, her fragility, ignited a flame of anger within him. He wouldn't let those specters take her. Never. Mariana, fighting bravely, managed to repel the specters with her spells, but they were numerous and powerful, moving like dancing shadows, impossible to hit with precision. With each attack from Mariana, a new specter emerged from the shadows of the forest, as if they were crawling insects emerging from the earth. It was an unequal fight, a battle against an invisible and relentless enemy. Suddenly, one of the specters, larger and darker than the others, approached Ricardo and Sofia, its nebulous form condensing into a grotesque figure with eyes that glowed like embers. A shiver ran through Ricardo from head to toe. This specter was different, more powerful, more malignant. "She is ours now," hissed the specter, its voice hoarse and rough like stone scraping against stone.
"Her power is the key to our dominion."
Ricardo felt a surge of rage. How dare they? How dare they threaten the woman he loved? His hand reached for the weapon in his holster, but he knew a firearm would be useless against a supernatural being. He needed something more, something magical. He remembered Ilara's words, the old witch who had spoken of the power of crystals. She had said that certain crystals contained an energy capable of repelling darkness, an ancestral force capable of combating dark magic. Ricardo remembered the small crystal that Sofia kept as an amulet, a rose quartz crystal, which she always said was a family heirloom, charged with ancient power. With the speed of lightning, Ricardo searched for the crystal among Sofia's belongings. His fingers found the small, smooth, warm stone, which radiated a gentle but undeniable energy. He gripped the crystal tightly, feeling its energy coursing through his veins, giving him a strength he had never felt before. It was as if he were connected to something greater, something ancient and powerful. Holding the crystal, Ricardo felt a sudden surge of courage. He wasn't just a skeptical detective. He was a man in love, a man who would fight for the love of his life to the end. He raised the crystal, its pink light shining intensely, like a beacon in the darkness. The light of the crystal seemed to dazzle the specters, causing them to recoil, emit high-pitched screams, and dissipate into black smoke. But the leading specter resisted, its eyes glowing with hate and determination. It was a battle of energies, a fight between light and darkness, love and fear. Mariana, seizing the opportunity, launched a powerful spell, a beam of golden light that struck the leading specter squarely. The specter screamed. A wave of dark energy emanated from it, and then, with a final bang, it vanished into the air, leaving only a heavy silence hanging in the forest. Sofia began to cough, slowly opening her eyes. Ricardo embraced her, relieved, feeling the warmth returning to her body. She was weak, but alive. They had survived. For now. The fight was far from over. They knew those specters would return, stronger, more determined. But now, they had a new weapon. Their union, their love, and the ancestral strength of the crystal. The fight for the two worlds, a realm between reality and magic, would continue. The forest, now silent, held the secrets of the night, the echo of a battle won, but a war that was still far from over. The moon, a silent and icy witness, bathed the forest in its silvery light, while Sofia's scream echoed in Ricardo's mind like a distant thunder. The smell of sulfur, pungent and terrifying, clung to his nostrils, a harbinger of the battle that awaited him. He ran, stumbling over roots and branches, his heart hammering against his ribs, the image of Sofia in danger propelling him forward. Each shadow seemed to hide a danger, an invisible monster ready to leap out and swallow him whole. The forest whispered sinister secrets in his ear, a melody of fear that cut through the night's silence. Suddenly, the sight of a nebulous figure, a tall and thin specter, shrouded in deep shadows that sucked the very moonlight, paralyzed Ricardo. It was a creature of the night, something terrible and unfathomable. A being that seemed made of dark mist, its contours undefined, its presence menacing. A chill ran down Ricardo's spine, but his love for Sofia, an unwavering flame in his chest, impelled him to continue. He couldn't fail. He couldn't lose her. Then, an even sharper cry, a cry of pure agony, tore through the silence. It was Sofia. Ricardo felt his blood run cold, the pain of his beloved echoing in his own heart. The specter moved, a macabre dance among the trees, each step accompanied by a chilling whisper that seemed to freeze the air. Fear, an enemy as real as the specters, invaded Ricardo. But his love for Sofia was stronger. A bluish light cut through the darkness. It was Mariana, the young apprentice, willow wand in hand, her magical energy pulsing. "Ricardo! It's the specters of darkness! They're stealing Sofia's life force!" she screamed, her voice trembling but firm. "They want to use her power to open a portal to another dimension." A portal? Another dimension? Ricardo felt the world around him unravel, reality distorting before his eyes. The situation transcended ordinary crime, surpassing the barriers of logic and reason. It wasn't just Sofia's life that was in danger, but something much greater, something that threatened the balance of both worlds. Sofia was on the ground, pale, almost unconscious, her life force being drained by those malignant beings. Ricardo ran to her, his heart clenched with pain and fear. Mariana, with surprising courage, fought bravely, conjuring spells that repelled the specters. But they were numerous, emerging from the shadows like malignant insects, each one an embodiment of darkness. One of the specters, larger and darker than the others, approached Sofia and Ricardo menacingly. Its nebulous form condensed, revealing a grotesque figure with eyes that glowed like embers. "She is ours now," hissed the specter, its voice rough and hoarse, a whisper that pierced to the bone. "Her power is the key to our dominion." An uncontrollable fury invaded Ricardo. How dare they threaten the woman he loved? He had no conventional weapons against them, but he remembered Ilara's words, the energy of crystals, the small rose quartz that Sofia wore as an amulet. With the agility of a cat, he found the crystal among Sofia's belongings, its smooth, warm surface transmitting a gentle yet undeniable energy. Holding the crystal, Ricardo felt an ancient power invade him, a force that transcended his own. He was no longer just a skeptical detective, but a man driven by love, ready to face any danger. For Sofia, for the survival of their worlds. Raising the crystal, its pink light shone intensely, like a beacon in the storm. The light of the rose quartz dazzled the specters, causing them to recoil, emit high-pitched cries of pain, and dissipate into black smoke. Mariana, seizing the opportunity, launched a powerful spell, a beam of golden light that struck the leading specter squarely. With a final bang, the malignant being vanished, leaving only the heavy silence and the proof of their victory. Sofia coughed, slowly opening her eyes. Ricardo enveloped her in a tight embrace, a mixture of relief and terror. She was weak, but alive. They had survived, for now. The fight was far from over. The war for the two worlds would continue. But they had something more now. The union of their love, the strength of the crystal, and the certainty that together they could face any darkness that stood in their way. The forest, now silent, held the secret of the night, the echo of a battle won, but a war that was only just beginning. The moon, a cold and implacable witness, bathed the forest in its silvery light as Ricardo and Sofia embraced, still trembled. Mariana, exhausted but victorious, leaned against a tree, panting. The battle seemed won. The specters dissipated into black smoke, the silence of the forest somewhat too heavy. Sofia, still weak, smiled at Ricardo, a weak smile, but full of love and gratitude. The danger seemed to have passed, for now. Ricardo was examining the small rose quartz crystal, still radiant with a residual glow. He felt the weight of his responsibility, the enormity of the battle fought, the fragility of the newly won peace. Suddenly, a tremor ran through the earth, not a small, imperceptible tremor, but a roar that made the tree sway and the ground vibrate beneath their feet. A cold, sharp wind blew, carrying with it a nauseating odor, far more intense than the sulfur of the specters. A fetid, sour smell, as if something ancient and malignant had been awakened. The sky, previously clear, began to darken abnormally, a thick, dark veil obscuring the moonlight. The shadows moved, twisting and dancing in a strange, sinister way. The trees seemed to writhe in pain, their branches snapping under an invisible pressure. Mariana let out a cry of alarm, her face as pale as the moon itself. From the middle of the dark forest, a gigantic figure emerged, covered in black armor made of shadows and darkness, a menacing silhouette that obscured even the darkness of the night. It wasn't a specter. It was something much, much worse. The creature emanated a sinister energy, a malevolent presence that froze the soul. Its eyes glowed with a scarlet light, cold and piercing, like two blazons of infernal fire. Its voice, when it echoed through the forest, was a deep roar, capable of making the mountains tremble. "You dared interrupt my ritual!" roared the creature, its voice laden with power and hatred. "You have unleashed a force you could never control. The gate is open, and now hell will open upon this world." Ricardo felt a shock of terror, a chill that froze his soul. This creature was from a dimension even deeper than that of the specters, a being of immeasurable power, a demon perhaps. Its shadow armor pulsed with a dark energy that sucked the life force from everything around it. Mariana, Sofia, and Ricardo felt weak, powerless in the face of such strength. The creature raised a huge dark hand, and a scarlet glow began to radiate from its palm. A glow that seemed to devour the very light, an omen of destruction and annihilation. The forest trembled, a silent cry of agony under the creature's power. The malignant energy condensed, ready to be unleashed upon them. Ricardo, Sofia, and Mariana looked at each other, their eyes filled with fear and despair, but also with a spark of hope. They had survived the specters, but this threat was incomparably greater, something that could destroy not only their lives, but everything they knew. The line between the two worlds was thinner than ever, on the verge of total collapse. The scarlet glow in the demon's hand intensified, ready to strike Ricardo, Sofia, and Mariana. Would this be the end? The end of their lives? The end of two worlds? The rose quartz crystal, still in his hands, radiated a weak light, pale compared to the unshakable power of the demon. Would it be enough? Would their love, the strength of the crystal, be able to overcome this new and terrifying threat? The answer hung in the air, a heavy silence anticipating the inevitable attack. The battle that had just been won would be only the beginning of an even greater war, a war against hell itself. The forest, now silent, waited, a dark stage for the approaching apocalypse. The demon's roar still echoed in the darkness, a promise of destruction.